Thanks, Devin. The Northwoods is rich in history, and a great way to start the morning is with a little coffee and friendly dive into some of our neat stories in the area.
So to help share these stories, we invited Karen Saylor, the Executive Director of the Eagle River Historical Society, to join us this morning. So thanks so much for making it in.
My pleasure.
So, Karen, tell us, Eagle River is busy now with snowmobiling, but early on we hear there was a different sort of settlers who made their way over from the Balkan area.
I believe you're talking about our Croatian element in Eagle River. They are a very prominent ethnic group in Eagle River yet today. And they started to arrive sometime before World War I. Immigration continued until the 1930s, although we don't have a finite start and ending date, obviously. They settled in an area east of Eagle River, still today known as Velebit. The area no longer has homesteads, although there are some old families who still live there. When the settlers arrived, based on an image that they were shown back in Croatia, they expected to find working farms that they had purchased. What they found were fields full of stumps, largely. Occasionally there was a building, maybe a chicken coop even, left on the property, but most of them had to begin working immediately to pull stumps and try to clear land. It was rigorous, to say the least, and many of them really would have liked to have left, but they'd invested their savings in arriving here. They had no way to just simply return. Some of them stayed for a year or so and then did leave. Many went to the mines in the UP. Others came into town and started businesses. Today, our Croatian element is represented in many professions, trades, and business occupations in Eagle River. They built a community hall where they used to have dances, and one of the entertainment groups that came down was called the Tamburitsans from Wakefield, Michigan in the UP. I don't know if you know what they are playing, but it looks like a small stringed instrument similar possibly to a ukulele or a mandolin. They had big picnics. As recently as the 1980s, it was still so active that there were annual Croatian picnics with masses held in Croatian for the people who attended.
Yeah, you always hear about like the German heritage and the Polish heritage and the Scandinavian even, but my goodness, the Croatians making their way in.
Absolutely. And the name Velebit that they chose for their new settlement came from Croatia. It reminded many of the settlers of an area that their families had originated from.
Well, that's fantastic.
And then, you know, living in Eagle River hasn't always been smooth sailing. It's known to have quite the explosive reason for that.
I think you're referring to the famous strong and manly explosion of 1924.
Yes.
The pun wasn't obvious there.
No, not really.
Good job.
This happened at 1:10 in the morning on the 24th of April, 1924. The company had just received a boxcar full of dynamite, farm equipment, nails, wire, and miscellaneous
hardware. Sounds like a good combination.
It was. They had stored it in a warehouse about 500 feet from the old train depot, which is not the one that you would see today, but an older version. A fire started sometime during the night. It's unclear when, and the source has never really been discovered. But the fire eventually set off an explosion. The explosion threw all of the hardware into the air. A lot of the nails peppered the walls of the buildings on Railroad Street. It blew out glass for an area miles around Eagle River.
Gracious. That's a big explosion.
It's huge. There was actually a guest in a hotel across the street from the depot from Rhinelander. When she heard the fire signal start for the fire company to come, she got out of bed to look at what was happening, which was fortunate for her because a large piece of farm equipment, red hot, came through the roof and landed on the bed that she had just left.
Whoa.
A number of people who did get up to see the excitement were blown by the blast back into doorways or down alleys. But miraculously, no one was seriously injured, and there were no deaths.
Wow.
That was a narrow escape because the hose company, the fire company of the day, had been called, and had they arrived a minute or two earlier, they would have been wiped out to a man by the explosion, which took place just before they got there.
There was just a lot of pure, just like moments of just luck.
It was pure luck all the way around, because the potential for serious injury and death was enormously high here. To round it out, of course, there was great damage to the community, especially glass. And the community ultimately decided that lawsuits against the hardware store would be counterproductive. They'd lose their hardware store, and it was the only one they had.
Yeah.
So, as a gesture of thankfulness and goodwill, the company offered to replace all the window glass at their own expense.
Oh, wow.
They were heard to remark later that they were astounded at the range of the blast, because they were getting claims for glass breakage as far as 30 miles from Eagle River.
Wow.
So goodness, I don't know if that was from the blast, but I mean, people certainly at least heard of it and wanted to take advantage of it.
I would say there might have been some opportunism going on there.
Well, that's fantastic. I love the neat little history things that I had never heard of either of these things, especially the explosion as well. But thank you for coming on and sharing, and coming on from the Historical Society of Eagle River. And what does Eagle River Historical Society have going on, and how do we get a hold of you if we wanted to learn a little more?
You can go to our website, which is eagleriverhistory.org. Pretty simple to remember. From there, you can contact us directly. I will probably be the person answering any inquiries or calls that come in. And we also, thank you for asking, are in a very exciting time right now. We've had enormous growth in the last 10 years since we opened our main campus, to the point that we are stressed for space and a lot of other storage qualities for our collection, most of which cannot be displayed at one time.
Right.
So we are in the midst of a $300,000 capital campaign.
Oh, goodness.
Which is very exciting. We have been blessed with support from the Tawani Foundation, and they are now matching up to $100,000 a year for 3 years.
Oh, goodness.
So any gifts that are made to us are likely to be doubled. And at the end of our campaign, between the gifts that the foundation is making, because they are making outright gifts of $300,000, we should have a total of $900,000 towards the construction of a new heritage center on our main campus.
Well, fantastic. We look forward to seeing that in the future, and it's exciting stuff in Eagle River.
Thank you.
Yes, well, thank you so much again for joining us this
My
morning.
pleasure.
And coming up, we have What's Trending, including fancy